And I have to make sure I turn the sound on YouTube off, so there's no echo. And then we will begin. It says live on YouTube on Zoom, but on my YouTube it's still spinning a little wheel. Okay, sound is off. Welcome everybody to Clear Vision Wednesday. Today I'm joined by my special guest, Jane Hogan, the wellness engineer. And her talk is called Visualize Your Way to Clear Vision. And I'm gonna unpin myself so that you can see her live in full view, because right now I just see myself on YouTube live and I don't see you, Jane.
Maybe gallery view? No.
I know this has never happened before. Usually like you pin the person and then the YouTube live shows what the Zoom is showing. Anyway, we talked the other day, I was on your show and now I see you on YouTube. I guess it's just the 5-minute delay. Or I have to turn off, when I'm speaking, it makes me large, even though I don't pin myself. So let me talk, share a little bit about your background. And also we talked a little bit about your vision and your own experiences with eyesight before we dive in.
Yeah, so my background, I worked as a civil engineer for 30 years. And in 2016, I really suddenly developed rheumatoid arthritis after a particularly stressful year. And it led me down this whole path of natural healing, reversing my symptoms naturally, which I did about like 90 to 95%, still got a little ways to go. And I just discovered this whole functional medicine, the connection between mind, body, and spirit. And I was so passionate about it, I decided I would hang up my hard hat and follow my heart and become a health coach. And that's what I do now. I help people release pain and inflammation naturally so that they can get on with their life and being who they want to be and not be restricted by the pain and inflammation. So that's my background, and I love what I do now, and it's a whole lot of fun. So I really like to come at it from it's wellness by design. It's intentional living, because this is a lifestyle change. It's not a quick fix. You know, if we wanted the quick fix, we would take the medications and have the side effects that go with it. But it's a lifestyle change. It's a really beautiful change because it really puts the power back in our own hands, which I think that's where it belongs, right?
I am 100% with you. And this is really my big mission too, is to empower my students to, own their own eyesight, right? I mean, nobody cares about your eyesight as much as you do. And while the doctors are great advisors and they can support us, a lot of times I feel like we're losing all control when we go to doctors. Like we kind of like, okay, the doctor told me to do this and I don't really know what that means. And also, I would love for you to share your little experiment with your own vision, with your glasses that you shared with me the other day.
Oh yeah, I'll tell you about that in a second. I just wanted to talk to that point about feeling empowered, and I think just to go back to my own story, and maybe some of your audience feels this as well. When something comes along, like losing eyesight is a really scary thing, or even the quality of your eyesight, or becoming immobile. When you get in that position, you do feel very hopeless and helpless, and we've just been conditioned to think that the answer is outside of us, and to know that the answer is within our own power is very empowering. So just wanted to talk about that point again. And I know that I had that point where I was like, I am going to fix this, and I'm going to fix it fast, because I can't rely on anybody else. I can really only rely on me. And when you start to see solutions, or when you start to see things reversing, it really empowers you. So that's great. But anyway, going back to my own experience years ago, I wore contact lenses for years. My eyes weren't terribly bad, like a minus 1.25, I think they were. But I wore contacts all the time, and I had an eye infection one time, so I couldn't wear my contacts. I forgot my glasses, didn't like them because I didn't wear them very much. So I thought, I'll just it's a little blurry, but I'll just get by. And so at the time I was teaching at college, and I remember seeing like my students in the back of the classroom, like they're kind of blurry and I can't understand them as well when I don't see their lips moving, but I got by. And eventually I found that my eyesight actually improved. And the last time I got my eyes checked, my prescription had gone down to minus zero point 0.5 or minus 0.25. So I actually improved with age and didn't I don't need glasses for distance anymore. And but that was my healing story. But then a couple of years ago, I started needing glasses for close up, and I like my eyes got bad very quickly, and I went out and bought dollar store glasses, had them in every room in the house, and they've just been getting worse and worse. So I've been really inspired by you, Claudia, to put my glasses away. So thank you so much for that, because I am working on reversing that problem too.
Yeah, I love that. And I think what I love about inspiring someone like you is that, even for health practitioners or holistic practitioners or wellness coaches or doctors, right? Holistic functional medicine doctors or naturopathic doctors, I found that vision is literally a blind spot where they think everything can be improved and healed, but eyesight somehow is like different. So, but
That's
anyway,
where I was.
right?
I don't know why I didn't think eyesight could be the same. But of course, and I even had my own experience with it. So I'm just so grateful that I met you and I was intrigued right away with your story and the work that you do. And I just think, of course, it makes so much sense. This works too with eyesight. So wonderful. Thank you so much.
Well, share a little bit with us about, the method that you're using, like to reprogram the brain. Share,
Mm.
like, and I just, I don't want to ask you like a billion questions, but just share, like, because we call this talk "Visualize Your Way to Clear Vision," because at the end of the day, you can visualize yourself
Mhm.
whatever you want, right? Clear vision is just one of the many things that you want, that you may want, and everybody listening here, I'm assuming that's what you want. So share a little bit with us how
Mm.
this kind of the concept or the science behind it, or like, yeah.
Mm. Yeah. Well, in the beginning, with what I was dealing with, I thought it was all about food that I ate. So I was like going down that route. But along my journey, I really discovered how important our mind is and our emotions. And actually, I think it's like really the place to start. And although I haven't helped anyone with vision, I believe that this system, it works for anything really in our physical body. So if you think about it, we have a conscious mind and a subconscious mind, and our subconscious mind is like running the show. Our subconscious mind keeps our body going all the time. Like we don't have to think, oh, time for another breath, or got to blink now, right? Although those are things that we can change, but our subconscious mind is running the show. Our subconscious mind also, right from the beginning of us, created our physical body. We didn't think about that either, right? So the subconscious mind created our physical body. So our subconscious mind has the blueprint of us. Our individual blueprint is in our subconscious mind, and our subconscious mind knows how to create that. So what gets in the way though is our limiting beliefs that could be in our subconscious mind, our conscious thoughts, because our conscious thoughts very often are stressful thoughts, can take us to a stressful place. When we're in a stressful state, our our subconscious mind that's running the show switches into the sympathetic state. So we've got two states of our autonomic nervous system: the parasympathetic, which is the rest, digest, relax, rejuvenate, repair. That should be our normal state. And then the other state is the sympathetic state, which is, the fight, flight, fear. And that's, our sort of life and death. When we're in that state, the autonomic nervous system is not running everything smoothly because it thinks we need to fight for our life. And so things start to break down. Perhaps vision could be one of them. Perhaps your gut could be one of them. And because you're not digesting as well. So there's lots of different things that start to not run as smoothly when we get into that state. of the sympathetic mode, and we're actually in a state of stress most of the time in our culture, unfortunately. So that's when things begin to not work as well and things begin to break down. So that's kind of the big umbrella picture of it. So let's just see where you want to go from there.
Yeah, so I definitely do talk about stress a lot, and about, good vision is always, it's based on relaxation. That what Dr. Bates said 100 years ago. And I don't know when they found out about the two states and all that, but yeah, I'm definitely like big on the vagus nerve and
Mm.
parasympathetic nervous system, and that's a core part of my teachings. But I would love to dive a little bit deeper into the limiting beliefs, because we
Mm.
all have them. We all have them about different parts of our lives or topics. So, what have you found, like some common, like for instance, I give you some examples for limiting beliefs, and maybe members of my community, if you want to type something in the chat, like type something in the chat for those of you with me on Zoom here, with me and Jane on Zoom. If like limiting beliefs you have about your eyesight, something I've heard is like, oh, it's genetic, or you're just born with
Mm.
cross-eyed, or there's nothing you can do, or once you turn 40, 45, your vision is going to go downhill. Everybody needs readers. Like, those are some things that I have heard.
Yes.
So, and I always say, this is just because something is common, it's not normal. And so maybe talk a little bit more about the limiting beliefs and how
Yeah.
that affects our health, and how can we change them? Maybe more importantly, how can we change them?
Mm. Well, I mean, if you, the subconscious mind takes everything very literally, right? So all the programming, all the beliefs that we've learned throughout our lifetime, it takes them very literally. So if we say we can't change your eyesight, it's genetic, it's whatever, then well, we won't, right? Because the subconscious mind takes everything literally exactly as we put it in there. It's just like a program, right? It's like, okay, put that program in, cool, that's the program that runs. So we can actually change it, and there's different tools that we can use for changing our limiting beliefs. So one is just like we can rewire with new thoughts. So either consciously thinking new thoughts, and there's creative ways to do that with visualization, with affirmations, just consciously trying to be aware of our thoughts. But we do have, like, 80, 90,000 thoughts a day, so it's hard to be conscious of all of them. So we can do that consciously. We can get into a state where we can enter the operating system of the subconscious mind through meditation, through hypnosis is another way, and you can do self hypnosis as well. Also, that little bit of time, right when you wake up in the morning and right before you fall asleep at night, your brain waves are in that state, that theta state, where the subconscious mind, we can get in there and program. So those thoughts that you're thinking right when you wake up in the morning and right before you go to sleep at night are really powerful for programming the subconscious mind as well. But also the brain is very visual. So I know we wanted to talk about visualization and how powerful that is, because the brain can't tell the difference between something we actually see and something that we imagine in our mind. So we can use creative visualization to to reprogram that brain and put new thoughts, new beliefs in there. So it's really
I
powerful.
love that. I love that. And I do use affirmations, and I recently heard the term ants for, now I can't remember what it was like, but negative thoughts, automatic negative thoughts, right? Ants. And when you see one, and I catch myself all the time saying things, to myself out loud or silently. And common thing with vision is I'm blind like a bat, or I can't see anything without my glasses, or everything is blurry. And some of
Mm-hmm.
the things on, like, there's a fine line between limiting beliefs and like the real experience, right? This is where I'm also interested in that real experience. Like, you take your glasses off and it is blurry, right? But I'm always, advising my clients, and I'm really interested in the subconscious stuff. This is what we're going to get to, because I'm like, how can you get in the subconscious mind? But before that, so I always say, reframe I can see everything I need to see, or I'm safe without my glasses, or reframe it in a way where it makes sense, where it feels true. Because if it's like,
Yes.
there's no fake it till you make it. Like you just say, oh, I can see clearly without glasses. And if that's not true.
Yeah.
So so the subconscious mind, and I've heard that, and I've been teaching, like talking about that the first 20 minutes of the day. I always have that sweet moment when I like press snooze and I'm like really just like, I had a crazy nightmare this morning. I woke up with a really horrible nightmare, and I think I was in REM sleep or whatever. But then usually my logical, like I feel like the first thought I have is not subconscious. For some reason, I feel like the first thought is like, what do I have to do today? Like how, like tell us a little bit, how can we harness that subconscious mind in the first, like right when we about to fall asleep, and between like kind of dreaming and waking up, like how can we get in there? And then maybe we can do something, the active visualization, then when we are like, oh, the self-hypnosis sounds interesting too. Everything sounds interesting.
It is. It's creating a new habit, right? So if your habit is to wake up and your first thought is, oh, what have I got to do today? It's taking the time to create a new habit. And habits they're just that, they're a habit. And so any way you can create a new habit, however you do it, maybe you put a post-it note like right next to your bed, or maybe you put some little reminder, like maybe you'd have put something like this next to on your night table, so when you wake up the first thing you see that is that, and it triggers you to remind, okay, I'm just going to let myself slip back a little bit now and think about create my improving my vision and how much better my vision is now. And I love what you said, Claudia, about it's got to be true enough, right? You can't make some like, I see perfectly, when you don't, because your brain is not going to believe it. But if you say, I think I'm seeing a little bit better than I did yesterday, or I'm noticing an improvement, I'm noticing an improvement, is much better than saying, I don't see any change at all. So yeah, so taking this little bit of time when you first wake up in the morning, because our thoughts create emotion in our body, and emotions are vibrations. Every single cell in our body picks up vibrations. It's like they have a little antenna on all of the cells, so they pick up vibrations. It goes in and it programs the cell, and then it creates, from our DNA, creates new proteins and new cells. So our bodies are constantly repairing and replacing themselves. Like none of the cells in our body are what they were 7 years ago. So it's kind of funny to think about that we're not really a static thing. We are a changing thing, right? We are constantly changing. And we are actually more energy than matter, which is kind of a wild thought as well. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Oh my God, yes. I mean, there's so many things I want to talk to you about. First of all, I realized I've been changing. Like in the morning, I have a really hard time getting up. So I've been hugging my pillow. I have a beautiful pillow from Germany, and I say, I love you. And then I think like I love you is also like showering myself with love, but it feels true because I love my little cushy pillow.
Oh, that's sweet.
So instead of, I've been shifting that. I'm curious, how often do the cells regenerate? And honestly, this is something I don't know. I guess I should know, but does it depend on which cells? I know different cells use more energy, like the retinal cells use more energy than any other cell in the body. But how often do they regenerate, like cells in general? Like you talk about 7 years or.
Yeah, and I think it's even less than 7 years. I remember hearing that years ago, and I'm not sure exactly. Different cells in the body do regenerate at different rates. I do a lot with people with their gut health, so I know that the gut lining cells replace every 3 to 5 days, which is pretty amazing because you can get improvements really quickly. I'm not sure about the eyes, how quickly they replace. I think it's the bones. Those ones take a little bit longer, and it may not be 7 years. I have heard a number, but I can't remember what it is. It's a lot less than that, actually. I think it might have just been 2 years. But
that's so interesting when you think about, like, I was just trying to think of some animal, like chameleon, how like constantly, like it's always, even if we sit there still, like holding our breath, all inside us. It's like all this kind of stuff going on. It's like, it's really true. It's always in motion. And we talk about this vision. We always talk about, Faith had this whole thing about, everything is always moving. And this is something big in my work. It's about teaching, even if you're static, just by moving your eyes or your attention, like it appears that everything moves the opposite way. Everything is moving and inside of us. So anyway,
so yeah, we're actually, so this kind of blows my mind a little bit to think about that. From quantum physics, they know that the model of the atom is that here's the size of it. So if you imagine the nucleus was the size of a car, then the size of the atom is about the size of the state of Washington. That's how much space there is. But it's not empty space, it's energy. It's energy space. And it's like it's the electrons that could, they're constantly moving, constantly changing. So that's what the atom is like. So the atom is 99.99999 something percent space. We are made up of systems and organs and cells are made up of molecules. Molecules are made up of atoms. So when you think about that, we are also 99.99999% space, energy, actually. So that space is energy. We are energy. We are constantly changing. We respond to energy, and our thoughts and our emotions are energy. So we are constantly responding to them. So it's kind of wild to think about that. We're just compressed energy, and that's why we seem like we're solid. It's just compressed down, but we are still at our core. We are energy. So how we respond to energy around us. We respond to energy from people that we're around. They can actually measure the electromagnetic energy away from our body, like several feet away, just with the instruments they have now. I'm sure down the road it'll be even more. So we aren't even just our physical body. We have the energy around us. So our thoughts really matter because it affects matter. Our thoughts affect matter.
I first came across this with Joe Dispenza's book, Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. And I've never studied with Dr. Joe Dispenza, but to me, this is such a fascinating concept. Yet somehow I guess you don't have to understand everything to do it, because I'm the kind of person I want to understand. Because I was like, I remember in school, like trying to understand the universe. And it's like, how can it not have an end? Like what, like, I feel like our brain cannot comprehend that. And yet we can still space travel, right? We can still like see things. So I feel like we need to sometimes let go of our need to understand everything, how everything works, and just, just feel it or experience it versus, but I'm definitely I'm guilty of that. Like if I don't and my dad was an engineer, and I don't know if that has to do with engineers, but it wasn't like he was good with formulas and, and science. But when it came to like touchy-feely, like imaginary visualization, my dad would be out. He would be like, now you left me, you're in the woo-woo state. And that's what I love about you. You have that engineering background, but you do what some people would call woo-woo stuff, right? Like, which to me it's all scientifically proven right now, but a lot of people will be like auras and energy, and what is that?
It's hard for people to to take it when a science has been, even though this is real, the quantum physics is real. It's kind of like, but let's not talk about that, because we got this very physical reality that we're in, and we are right here. So we do need to deal with it. So I think the bottom line is we don't really need to understand it. If we just accept that it's true that we are made of energy, we respond to energy, our thoughts and our emotions are energy, then that makes us realize that we got to be so careful with our thoughts, because our thoughts affect us physically.
I agree. So I've been saying the last week a lot, like I'm so behind with my own launch because I'm launching my course again. And I'm like, I shouldn't say that. And then I'm like, okay, but should is not a good word. And I feel behind. So, and this is just an example that has nothing to do with eyesight, but how can we move from that like, do you have some kind of tool or some kind of practice, and I know how to work with myself, I catch myself.
Mm-hmm.
But however, it's like, how often you say these things,
Yeah.
I can't do this. I'm bad. How, in our common language, it's like, I'm bad at this. I suck at this. I'm not good at this.
Mm.
We have so much in our language that's like, especially criticizing ourselves.
Yeah.
So how can we, like, consciously, okay, you can catch yourself when you have that automatic negative thought, right? And you can be like, okay, I'm replacing it with a new one.
Mm-hmm.
I could say, instead of I'm so behind, I am working on catching up and it will be easy. Or like something, I can have another, right? Because I feel like with quantum physics, which I don't fully understand yet, but there is that kind of void. It's like you have to, now if I give up that negative thought, I have to replace it with something else, right? Or like, what happens if I don't? If I just say that was a negative thought and I leave it at that.
Well, I think awareness is the first step, right? So you're already aware, and then the next step is to kind of catch yourself, because anytime we're feeling, so when you have a thought like that, I'm behind, I don't have this done, then that creates a negative feeling in your body, and then of course your cells are going to respond to that. So noticing it is the first part, so becoming aware, and then switching it around. So even a better feeling thought is good. So like you just said there, you said, I did as much as I could today, and I'm making progress. So just switching it to something that feels a whole lot better than saying I'm so far behind. So awareness, catching yourself, replacing, the affirmations to reprogram the subconscious mind, all these other little tools. And another thing, and this comes back to quantum physics, and it is about, um, I call it generative gratitude. So you generate gratitude for something that hasn't happened yet. So you feel it as if it has already happened. So you imagine, for example, getting your coursework finished, or your eyesight, clear eyesight. You
Yeah,
imagine
let's talk
that.
about eyesight. Let's talk about eyesight.
Okay.
I was kind of veering off with my own stuff. But let's say, for all the people watching this, so, let's say somebody like has, let's say they have vision problems in the distance, as an example. It doesn't matter what exact vision challenges, or there's a cataract. We could also use a cataract, which is a clouding of the lens, right?
Hmm.
So it's either a clouding of the lens, or it's a combination with, like, there's a blur somewhere, there's a blur at some distance, right? Or maybe even all distances. So
Mm.
how can you start, like, so people, I hear this all the time, they take their glasses off and like, everything is blurry. That's a
Hmm.
negative thought, right? Everything is blurry.
Mm. Yeah. So with a thought like that, how can you turn that like around a little bit? Even, well, it's going to get better because I've taken my glasses off. I'm taking steps. I'm taking steps to improve my vision, right? That's one of your steps. Even like you talked about the blinking and the palming of the eyes, you know, then you take that thought and say, I'm taking steps to improve my vision. So that's a much better feeling thought than, ooh, everything's so blurry, right? So you catch yourself. But coming back to the visioning, and I did this with rheumatoid arthritis, and I use it with my clients as well. You know, if you read rheumatoid arthritis, it sounds pretty nasty and it gets worse and worse and worse. But I used visualization. I would every morning picture myself doing these things that I really would love to do. So I imagine myself climbing a mountain. I imagine being on a sailboat and pulling up the sails. I imagine playing with my grandchildren, and just like feeling. The key part is you get the visual in your brain, and then the feeling of how good that feels, and then the gratitude, like I'm so grateful that my body healed, that I'm a healing machine, and all of this improved, and now I'm able to enjoy that. And I think what the way quantum physics works is they say, as you put attention on something, it actually rearranges the particles. So the molecule, the atoms, that actually creates this reality. And I think it works as well. We're feeling those good feelings. Our cells are responding. The DNA within our cells is creating life. That's what it does. It creates new life, creates new cells, and those new cells are now responding to those positive thoughts, the positive visualization, the feeling that we have around that, the gratitude. I mean, it's such a positive feeling. When you're feeling gratitude, you can't be feeling lack, right?
Yeah,
So,
no, that is powerful. And I remember from Joe Dispenza's book, the study with the HeartMath Institute, which with where one group had a vial of DNA and they just had a thought to unwind it. And the other group had that thought and they were just expressing this gratitude and love and excitement. And I can't remember the exact feeling, but that DNA was unwound up to 25%, but the other group had no changes at all.
yeah.
So
Yeah,
I
there's
love because I feel like with visualizations, a lot of times we just do that, and I hear from my students, and I used to say the same thing. I'm not good at, and I'm a former designer, right? I used to have a different career, much like you. And I would be like visualizing, like I have to, then I'm perfectionistic. What kind of trees are there? Like I see green, but and then I get all stuck in that kind of, how does it exactly look like? But the key part to really have this happen is the feeling, right? Like you talked
absolutely.
about, I love how you talked about climbing, not just seeing yourself climbing a rock, whatever, but how you felt, maybe
Yeah.
the wind and the excitement, and you were just exhilaration and, really connecting to those feelings
Mm.
of how you're able in the gratitude of all these positive feelings that come. I think that is really the key, right?
It is the key. And the emotions and the feelings are really the bridge between our physical body and our soul, I believe. So it's really quite powerful. And that is really the key thing. And I use this all the time with my clients and women in my membership. I talk about the feelings are what's most important. So even if you have, actually yesterday one of the ladies posted a picture of her feet and they're all swollen, but she had been walking a little bit. I said, thank your feet for what they've done for you already, even though they're still swollen. They got you around. They got you moving. Feel gratitude for that. That's so much better than looking at her feet and going, oh, they're so swollen and how long is this going to take and all of that. So it's really the feelings are key, and I believe it would work with eyesight too. I don't see why it wouldn't.
It doesn't matter what it works with. I've heard a story from a fellow teacher, and his student always envisioned her cataracts to be just kind of like a squeegee, right? You kind of squish like all the cloudiness down, and then the optometrist found all the cataract at the bottom, and before it was covering and she's like, oh, I should have visualized and felt like the cloudiness flowing out, right, versus being
Mm.
squished to the bottom. But it works with everything. It
Yeah,
really works. It doesn't matter what it is. So can you lead us through a little practice, and
yeah,
maybe if somebody in the group has something they want to work on, or or we can all have our own, maybe we can all have our own little thing.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
I
that would
think
be
that's
awesome.
great. Whatever people want to work on. So I can lead you through a little. It's just short, 3 or 4 minutes. I might get into 5 minutes. Just a
That doesn't
little.
matter. It's okay.
Okay, like a heart focused. But what we're going to do in this is visualize. So take whatever issue you're dealing with and imagine that it's solved. So imagine that it's solved and what you would be doing. Think of something like marvelous that you would be doing with this problem solved and the feeling. So we'll come back to that, but I want you to kind of have something in mind now before we start, and then we'll get there.
Okay.
So I
Perfect.
invite you to just sit wherever you are now, just sit comfortably. Put your 2 feet on the floor, or maybe you're lying down, that's okay too. And just rest your hands in your lap, face down, or palms up or palms down, whichever is more comfortable for you. And just gently close your eyes. And then just begin to notice your breath, breathing in and out through your nose. You don't need to try to change your breath, just notice the breath. Feel the air moving through your nostrils. And now imagine every time you breathe in that you're breathing into your heart space. So in your chest where your heart is, breathe in. Let that air swirl around your heart, filling up that heart space and letting it go again. Breathe into your beautiful heart. Fill up that heart space. And let it go again. Just keep breathing at your own pace. Letting that air swirl around that beautiful heart center of yours. And letting it go again. And now, while you continue to breathe into your heart, I'd like you to think about that vision that you thought came up with just before we started. Imagine that the issue you're dealing with is gone. And what are you doing? What's a magnificent, marvelous thing you would be doing? Just get this in your mind. Who are you with? What colors do you see? Maybe you'll notice what you're feeling, like a breeze on your face, what you might be touching, what you might be hearing. Maybe you're even tasting something. And notice how good you feel. Maybe you can put a name on this emotion. Maybe it's exhilaration or joy or love or gratitude or fun or happiness. Whatever that emotion is, feel that emotion. See if you can feel that emotion in your heart. So we're switching from thinking about it to feeling that emotion in your heart. You're breathing in, you're breathing out, filling up your heart with that beautiful emotion. As you breathe in and breathe out. And you may even notice you feel like a swelling in your heart. Or you may not, and that's okay too. Maybe you're feeling a smile on your face. Or not, but you're feeling that emotion. It feels so good. Now we'll just take one last breath. And as you release it, you can gently open your eyes, first with a downward gaze. And flutter your eyes open. So look how easy that was for you to create this beautiful feeling just totally with your thoughts. And what happens when we do this breathing in our heart, and there's science behind this, our heart goes into coherence. It becomes very coherent. It operates smoothly. Our vagus nerve it operates smoothly as well. We get really good communication through that vagus nerve between our heart and our brain. We get coherence between the two hemispheres of our brain, and we move into that parasympathetic state. And when we move into the parasympathetic state, everything starts working smoothly. We get repair happening. Repair can't happen when we're in the sympathetic state, but it happens in the parasympathetic state. So the more often we can get ourselves into that state, the more we're going to be repairing any part of our body we want to repair. But you've also now got that visualization for your brain that your eyesight is being repaired. And you can use this for any part of your body or any aspect of your life for that matter. So I hope that you enjoy that. I do actually have a video you could download on or watch on YouTube if you wanted to. And I can share that link with you afterwards, Claudia. I can't remember if I
Yeah,
shared that one
yeah,
with you or not.
definitely. That would be great. I would put that in the description underneath. That was so amazing. I mean, I've never felt the feelings, like the feels. And when you said, what is the feeling? I'm like, joy, yes. Love, yes. Fun, yes. Like literally like every single one of them. So do we have to pick one feeling, or does it like, because then my brain was like, what is the right one? Then I was kind of, but
Doesn't matter.
I was not caught up on that. I just kind of I like, they're all okay. And I saw all the colors of the rainbow.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah. It doesn't matter as long as it's a positive feeling. When you're in that positive state, that's how you get into the parasympathetic state. So there's vibrations of emotion. I don't know if you've ever seen this chart,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
right? So, obviously some of them have a much higher vibration. If you can hold those ones, well, that's great. But it doesn't have to be. As you just need to tip it so that you're in the positive state. And so any positive emotion will do that.
This is like joy or love. Like, I've seen this chart and I think I actually have it on my fridge, but it's buried by other things that are stuck on top. Wasn't joy one of the highest ones, or I
I
can't
think
remember?
so. Yeah. Joy
Yeah,
is probably the highest. Yep.
yeah.
And but it goes, and I can't remember them all now. I don't have them right in front of me. But compassion, right, is a positive emotion. Gratitude is a positive emotion. So anything that you can do to kind of get you into that state, even excitement is a positive emotion. So any of those emotions at all, as long as you're tipping the scale, because it's one or the other. All we got to do is just tip the scale to the positive emotion side.
I love that so much because I feel like I was cold before and now I'm like warm, and my
Yeah.
heart felt like it was beating faster. But this is the thing, the
Yeah.
parasympathetic nervous system state is the state, like you said, repair, and is the state where we digest, where our vision is best, right? And so
Yeah.
and people always confuse that with just resting or sleeping or not doing anything, and that's not the point, right? Like,
Yeah.
you are in that relaxed state, and that's when you
Yeah.
can focus better
Yeah.
also, right? Versus the stress, you're like, oh my god, deer in the headlight. So that was beautiful, and I think if you have a meditation, we can, and I will mark the minute mark where you did this activity, so I can put in the description that people can see exactly, because that was beautiful. It's so
Mm.
much nicer when somebody else guides you through it.
Yeah, yeah. But once you practice, you
Right.
can do this yourself, and you don't have to have your eyes closed. You can do this while you're out for a walk. You can do this while you're standing in the line at the supermarket. Your thoughts are always in your control. So you have the power to do this whenever you want. In the beginning, it is easier to have someone guide you through it, and so that's why I share this with my audience, and but eventually they can do it themselves. And
I did an Instagram live on Sunday when I was at the beach, because in the Bates method, we call it like a foundation or an anchor object or anchor memory. And maybe memory is not the right word, but it's the same idea, that something that deeply relaxes you, that makes you feel good. And that could be, I always say that could even be a piece of music or just something where you're like, and then you're like, and you practice that initially with eyes closed to get in that state. And then you can also use it like Pavlov's dog. I always say, how he
Yeah.
trained the dog you rang the bell and then the dog would think it would be food and he would salivate, right? So we can train ourselves with something really easy, right? So that kind of feels similar, but I guess we have like I always talk about feeling good, but not connecting that with that heart breath. I think that's making it even more powerful.
It is very powerful, well, the HeartMath Institute has done loads of studies, so it's
Right.
not just made up stuff. Where it feels good, yes, but it also physiologically there is a response, and it improves the your heart rate variability as well. And heart rate variability is the number one indicator of health, the number one indicator of longevity, and we can't get that a nice high heart rate variability. So that's the difference, the difference in time between successive heart rates. And we actually want lots of variation. We can't get the variation when we're doing quick breathing. We need the longer slow breaths to do that, and that focusing on the heart and the positive emotions makes it even more powerful.
So the heart rate variability, for those of you that don't know, it's that on the inhale, right, our heart rate is a little faster than on the exhale. And so I understood that basically, like, you don't want it to get too slow on the exhale, because at the bottom you would basically pass out, right? And
Mm,
if you probably have it too fast, which a lot of us, but that difference is, like you said, that is a really important indicator. And I think there's an overemphasis on that, that kind of, like you said, that hyperventilating, which is a great breath. Like the Wim Hof breath is a great way if you're sleepy and you need to get activated, that double inhale, exhale is like a really good
yeah.
way to get kind of, but that's not what we want to use, during the day. So
No,
that
the
was so
belly
wonderful.
breathing is another great way to stimulate that vagus nerve as well. So
Right.
a lot of us are doing dysfunctional breathing. Like, I know I was a real chest breather, and that's kind of common with a lot of people. But if you look at a baby, when a baby's breathing, it's their belly that's going up and down. And every time we do that belly breathing, where our diaphragm is moving up and down, and that the vagus nerve is attached to it, so it actually, like, kind of stretches it a little bit, and it gets movement in there, and actually it gets better tone. We need to have really good communication, and getting that vagus nerve toned up helps. There's all kinds of ways to do that too.
I love that. I mean, you're speaking my words exactly. Everybody listening in the Clear Vision Club is like, because I teach the diaphragm vacuum in my Roll and Relax classes, and it's really important, right? To kind of, like you said, like improve the ability of the breath. And I always say, belly breath. I used to be a chest breather, and my chiropractor would always be like, tight neck, tight shoulders,
Yeah.
chest breather, sternocleidomastoid.
Me too.
So that is a good indicator. And we all, like, this is the thing, when we are stressed, right? We automatically chest breathe to get us ready to run and fight and whatever. But if we are not, like, so it's a lot of time like, like, wonderful. Thank you for saying that. I love when other people say the same things, because it makes it clear that it's not just me.
Yes, I know.
So wonderful. We will end the YouTube live. And for those of my Clear Vision Club members, you get to, once we end the YouTube live, you can bye-bye YouTube. And for everybody else, you get to ask questions. And for those of you on YouTube, if you're interested, I will share the link underneath if you're interested in becoming a member in my tribe. And then you get to be with us on Zoom every week, and plus lots and lots of other benefits.